Are you getting absolutely destroyed in the swarm game mode? Do you feel like you're doing no damage at all to that big bug?
All that for a drop of blood.
Are you looking for the best teams to use, whether you're free to play, a whale, and or a casual player? And the most important thing, do you guys like big booty delicious damage? If so, this is the video for you. Today we have the top 10 best teams to use in the Swarm endgame mode, and let's kick it with number 10 on our list. Starting with our number 10 spot, we have the Seele and Welt team. And you might be thinking, why Welt? And it is purely on the fact that he can essentially abuse the hunt path mechanics, allowing absolutely no turns to be made by the enemies. If we take a closer look, we can see that the team is always breaking the enemy toughness bars. This is because Welt has AoE imaginary damage, and Seele here is doing a great job as well. And because the enemies are always stun locked, we don't actually need a healer, and we want to buff up these capabilities as high as we can. Some important blessings that you are going to need is the Celestial Annihilation. When breaking enemy toughness bars, you can advance your action by 100%. You also want to get as many crit boost buffs as you can, specifically the Imperial Rain Blessing. And in the hunt path, you're also going to see a lot of speed buffs. You also want to pick up the Nihility Blessing for break efficiency, which can really synergize well with the team. And something also really important is you want this blessing that allows you to regen 60% energy, which really just completes the team, giving you unlimited ultimates from Welt. Also in the hunt path, we are going to see that we are getting HP at the start of our turn, and in the resonance interplay, it gives you HP when defeating the enemy. Let's talk about specifically on the team members though. So we're getting a DPS Welt where he's contributing the damage as well as most of the weakness break. Seele acts as a single target DPS, focusing on trying to kill that biggest enemy. Bronya is there for the very strong advancing action buff, crit damage and attack buffs, and we also have Silverwolf here for the defense shred. So some pros about this team is the play style. Your goal is to buff up the team, break the enemy toughness, and then rinse and repeat. While this is happening, there is so much damage, and the way that the enemies never get a turn and are pretty much stun locked, it's an extremely strong team if you have it, fixing a lot of the last Seele team's issues with their AoE. In this specific team, we're getting very strong AoE with some of the highest single target in the game, and we're also getting a nice bit of healing and sustain from the HUD blessings. I think some cons you are going to find out about this team is it's a very speed run team, which results in it being very vulnerable to one-shots if not played correctly, and that heads into my other point. It will take some practice, and it's not really a team you can just pick up and head towards the end game, and you really got to know what you're doing. You're also probably going to want to switch your characters during the early part of your runs and have that reliable sustain, and this is where you're going to either add preservation characters or abundance characters, and then at the end of your run you're going to want to add your Welt. Apart from this, I think this is a very good team. I don't think I would have ever thought to do this, so thumbs up to the players that figured this out. This is an awesome team and very strong to play. On to number 9 on the list is a surprising face here, and that is Jingyuan Elation / Remembrance. This is a team focusing on AoE damage and using follow-up attacks from Jingyuan to unleash extraordinary amounts of damage. Jingyuan can easily hit 1 million plus damage, and there's a lot of damage sources from Elation as well as Remembrance. The way you're gonna deal damage is aftertaste damage. Jingyuan also uses some Remembrance blessings, as when you get the resonance interplay, you can actually have high chances to freeze, and that's going to add some extra damage to the enemies. The main team here is Jingyuan, Tingyuan for the damage buffs and energy boost, Luocha for his survivability, and an interesting choice here is actually March 7th, because she can taunt the enemies to hit Jingyuan, which he then can get his ultimate a good amount quicker. Not to mention, March's cleanse is quite helpful. If you don't like March 7th, Japard is going to be just fine. There's also Luocha for the heals and survivability, but you can try using Bailu, but you might have trouble with CCs from the swarm, as if you are hit by it and you don't recover your characters as soon as you can, it's going to quickly turn the game around. Some pros of using this team is there is a lot of damage increase buffs to follow-up attacks, which synergizes with Jingyuan's kit very well. All ultimates are considered follow-up attacks, which also increases damage. There's also a few attack reduction debuffs to the enemies, which can help with survivability. Some cons about this team is it needs really specific blessings to be very good, but it is like that with most of the teams here. But Jingyuan specifically needs a lot of the Elation and Remembrance cards, as he heavily benefits from them, and it's going to increase your damage tenfold. Overall, this is an awesome team, and finally we get to see some more Jingyuan play, as he's such a gem of a character. Heading into the world of damage over time, on our number 8 spot, we have the Kafka Nihility team. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on here, heavily emphasizing dot damage, and we're gonna hop right into the team after I remind you guys to like the video if you guys are enjoying this top 10 list, and a quick subscribe if you guys want to. So this team is focusing on dot damage, and with the Nihility path, it's trying to maximize the team's dot damage, and essentially at the start of the enemy's turn, they just take this massive hit of around 300 and 400k just from one tick of dot damage. There's also Kafka's ultimate, which easily hits 300 to 400k. Her skill also contributes a lot of the damage. Let's head deeper into the team. The team consists of Kafka, Luca for the dot damage buffs, Stumble for the exact same reason as Luca, you're getting the dot damage buffs, and you're gonna really try to have a good abundance character because this team is very squishy without it. So Luocha is going to be your best bet, having that cleanse, but you could squeeze your way with Bailu, or you can add a preservation character like Japard. Some blessings that you'll definitely need are all of the 3 Nihility formations. If you can get both of the resonance interplays, these are going to help a lot, advancing your action, and all of your basic attacks can apply 40% of the dot effect currently on the enemies, and you're definitely going to need some abundance and preservation blessings to increase your survivability. So let's talk about the pros. Kafka is really good at dealing with the smaller swarms. She is able to explode them fairly quick. She has very strong AoE, hitting everything on the field. Single target is also there as well, and also in the Nihility path, you can also get healing when the enemies take dot damage, so that's going to be nice for survivability. Some tips on this team is you could try to add lightning weakness onto the enemy, but this team is still very strong without it. Some cons about this team is it's very susceptible to the one shot of the boss, and that's really the only weakness of this team. Again, not the best survivability, and if you take a sequence of hits from the swarm, you are most likely not going to be able to survive. Without Luocha, you're not going to get that cleanse, and it's going to make the boss fight a bit harder than normal. But overall, I like this team a lot. I kind of get frustrated with getting 2-tap, but that's okay. It's still a very solid choice. It's super fun, and give it a try if you want to. Alright, heading into number 7 on the list, we have the Hit Me team, featuring the infamous Clara and March 7th combo. This team has been awesome to use in the MOC, and is still pretty great in the Swarm Disaster game mode. This team focuses on dealing counter-attack damage from Clara, and utilizing the destruction path to be unkillable, as well as lowering enemy defenses. And something that you want to look for is Elation Blessings, so you can get some follow-up attack damage, and in this way, you can unlock the Resonance interplay, which gives more additional energy to your Clara. And since you will most likely get a lot of follow-up attacks, you will pretty much have 100% uptime on Clara's ultimate. We are also using March, as she will benefit from the Resonance interplay, getting back some of the energy so she can essentially spam her ultimate, which is great for freezing enemies. The full team consists of Clara, Tingyun for the damage buffs. You may be able to swap this for Silver Wolf or Pela. Luocha is going to be the best choice for survivability, but since you have so much damage reduction and effect res, Bailu and Natasha will still be awesome choices. Let's get on to the pros. So you're actually getting very strong AoE damage, that's the focus here, and on top of that, you're getting very strong survivability, as again, Clara has decent effect resistance, and she is able to resist a lot of the CC buffs that the swarm deals. And let's say Clara does get affected by any of the CCs, you can just boom, pop March's shield, and she will be able to cleanse and remove those debuffs. Some tips about this team is you want to get some of the preservation blessings to be more tanky. Something you should know is you again want a lot of the destruction blessings, and again activate that resonance interplay. And I will say, once you do this, this is a very easy and cheesy team to play, as you are just getting hit and then unleash those follow-up attacks that can hit some pretty absurd numbers. Some cons I will have to say about this team is it may feel as though it's taking longer to clear compared to the other teams on the list, and it's just because of the way Clara works. There is not too much single target damage going on. You're also relying on follow-up attack damage, so you're waiting for the enemies to hit you, which can definitely slow down the battle quite a bit. But other than that, if you want a team that can essentially survive all of the swarm hits, you're never really worried about getting one shot by the swarm enemies, and it's just a very comfortable team to play, utilizing a very niche mechanic that performs decently well into the endgame. I love this team quite a bit, and it's a very beginner friendly team. On to number 6 on the list, we have Mono Quantum. This is a team that abuses the quantum weakness that the Swarm all have and dishes out massive raw single and multiple target damage. This team also utilizes the destruction path to highlight the survivability from Fushuan, whilst increasing her potential to the max. Having Fushuan in this team can pretty much make you unkillable from all the fighting spirit stacks that you obtain, and also you're getting that defense shred entropic retribution, which can be quite powerful during the battle. For some important context about this team, we are essentially taking half our health and trading that for a strong shield, and we want to strengthen that shield by having more fighting spirit stacks, which give us more defense. And in this way, Fushuan is able to solo sustain the whole team, already having the damage distribution built into her skill, and she also provides healing for the team. Silverwolf is here for the defense shred, and also talking about the 2 DPSs here, we have Chingchui for the AoE quantum damage, and Sela for the single target damage, focusing on the major boss. Combining these characters make a team that can handle all of the swarm mechanics and decimate the enemy health bars. Some major blessings that you're gonna need, as well as other blessings that give fighting spirit. Having all of the resonance formations is going to be really nice. Getting as many destruction blessings is going to be beneficial as well. You'll definitely need more preservation blessings to activate resonance interplay, giving you a stronger shield, and you're gonna need propagation blessings to increase basic attack crit damage for QQ to deal more damage. So let's talk about the major pros of this team. AoE damage is going to be quite strong for you. There is high single target damage from Sela. There's high survivability from Fushuan. You're getting tons of defense from the path. Remember, you are fighting a lot of elite enemies, and this team is great for dealing with them. Some of the cons are this is a pretty expensive team. This is a team with 4 very specific characters, not having a lot of room for change. If there is no Silverwolf, Tingyun could be a good option, and any Harmony or debuffing options are going to be good. Even Fushuan can be replaced by the new character Lynx, but you are losing some of that defensive capabilities, more vulnerable to one-shots and combos. The 2 DPSs are kind of irreplaceable. QQ is a character that will probably need that E6, gaining back that skill point, and if Sela is the sole damage dealer, it's gonna have a hard time with AoE damage. So again, this is a very expensive team, but if you have the pieces to construct this team, it's gonna be very powerful against the Swarm. Overall, I really like this team, and Fushuan being a new character is already being a top meta choice, so get her if you can. Also, number 5 on the list, we have a team that is pretty much accessible to anyone and is also an extremely reliable team that pretty much anyone can build. And this is the ultimate shield team utilizing March 7th and Fire MC. The way this team works is pretty simple. You want to pop March's shield and then use MC's taunt to get 100% of the damage coming to your Fire MC. Alongside this, your resonance buffs will do the work for you, and you're going to get huge damage from the preservation resonance. The full team consists of, again, March 7th for her AoE freeze and her shield taunt, Fire MC for the crazy defensive capabilities as well as his own taunt. We also have Pela in here for the AoE defense shreds, debuffing all of the enemies on the field, and then we're going to need an abundance character, and this is where I'm sure any of the abundance characters will work well. Onto some specific blessings is, since you are going with the preservation path, we will be having quick damage added into play. Quick damage is when the enemy attacks you, they will self-inflict damage onto themselves. From the preservation path, this is what is very strong, and this is also going to add a bleed effect to the enemy. From one of the 3 formations, you're going to get this amber effect, and this basically means that you won't ever be susceptible to one-shots that are present in the boss fight if you time it just before that one-shot happens, and you can just take it and nullify the damage completely. We also want some propagation blessings, having some spore damage that is going to give us some extra source of damage. We also want 2 specific gold destruction cards, one that distributes the damage equally. This is going to make our shields endure even more punishment through the battle, and we want fighting spirit on hit that will improve our defense stats, which will also give us a stronger shield. A few other important ones that you're going to need is some remembrance cards so that we can utilize March's ultimate, and some nihility cards. And if you get both of the resonance interplays from the preservation path, this is going to scale your damage a lot higher and also allow you to pretty much run no real damage dealer or DPS. This is a bit of a more gimmicky team, and I'm gonna break it down. So there are 3 sources of damage. Quake, Spores is one, and also the preservation resonance is going to do huge amounts of damage, and you're also going to get some dot damage as preservation utilizes bleed, which can easily hit 100k at the start of the enemy's turn. I think some of the biggest pros of this team is the free-to-play aspect. This is such a strong team. I'm pretty sure it's one of the most popular amongst the non-whale players. Most of these characters are pretty much guaranteed to be obtained, but it also feels like a very easy team to play. You're also pretty much indestructible. If you get attacked by even the strongest swarm hit, your shields are pretty much not even going to take a dent. And once they start chipping your shield, MC can quickly activate another shield with his ultimate, and then his taunt is pretty much soaking all of the single target damage. But let's say your other teammates start taking damage, you can heal them up and then gain your shields back very quickly, again making this team unkillable. You're also getting tons of AoE damage. Those smaller enemies aren't going to live for long with all of the damage sources that are applied when entering the field. But moving on to the cons is the amount of time that it takes to build this team's blessing count and obtain all of the essential blessings that you'll need. In your earlier runs, you'll definitely want to switch out your DPS, as this team won't do any damage at all at the start of your runs. Single target is mediocre, but it's not the worst, but you're trading that for being indestructible. But that's really it to the cons. Otherwise, this is an awesome team, accessible to everyone, and a great choice for this swarm endgame. On to number 4 on the list, we have another variation of Freeze March, and that is Mono Freeze. This is where all of your party members are ice characters, and this is a very popular team to use as it's very cheesy, and credits to the original creator, Zim. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, but essentially they found a way to crank up the remembrance path all the way, utilizing free-to-play units and abusing the freeze mechanics, which doesn't allow the enemies to have a turn while dealing insane amounts of damage. The way this team works is we want to apply disassociation. This is where most of the damage will root from. Now, how this team will deal damage is from these blessings here, which removes disassociation on hit, dealing 150% damage, and we want to scale this damage as high as we can with remembrance blessings. The playstyle of this team is we keep applying and removing disassociation, which ends up dealing some absurd amounts of damage. How your rotations will go is you will try to freeze the enemies first with either March's ultimate or Herda, and then you want to remove disassociation with your next attack. Then you want to reapply and rinse and repeat. I gotta say, this is one of my favorite teams to use. It's just so good and very accessible, and it makes a character like Herda have a prominent place in the Swarm endgame. So let's talk about the major pros. This team has strong AoE damage. Everything on the field is going to take 1+ million damage. Single target is very surprisingly good. Survivability is not that much of an issue, as you'll pretty much never get hit, as enemies are stun locked from freeze, and if they do somehow attack you, you'll be able to heal up from your emergency ultimate. There's no real weaknesses on this team as long as you're playing it right, but something that you should know is that it's not great at the earlier start of your runs, and you definitely want to use a different damage dealer to collect all of the required blessings. It's not going to deal any damage during your fights, but at the end when you reach the Swarm boss fight, this is where the damage is going to really start ramping up, and you're going to make this boss fight feel very trivial. This is a very great team, and check it out on Zim's channel. Alright guys, we're gonna head on to our top 3 teams. We finally made it, and if you guys are enjoying the video, give a quick like down below, and maybe subscribe if you're finding this video helpful at all. In this top 3, there's not going to be a specific power ranking, as they are all extremely good. It's just what you prefer, because they are just all overpowered. But moving on, let's head on to number 3. We have someone that may surprise you, and that is Qingchui. And you're like, QQ, how can this be? She's a 4-star, and in every single tier list, she's F tier. Well, as of now, QQ is among the strongest DPS units to use in this Swarm endgame, and this is because of 2 major reasons. The first is she's a great user of the propagation path, which heavily benefits characters that consume multiple skill points and use basic attacks as their primary way of dealing damage. The second is AoE quantum damage, and if you guys haven't realized already, all of the Swarm enemies have quantum weakness, and this allows for a character like QQ, who is erudition, to just wipe all of the enemies, easily hitting 1.6 million damage with each attack. She's essentially Imbibitor QQ. So this team is fairly easy to build up during your runs. You just want to be taking as many Swarm battles and occurrences to gain as many propagation blessings as you can, and then pretty much it does the game for you. Metamorphosis ignores all type resistance, stacking up to 2 times. Spores will deal a ton of damage, and you're not really being limited by skill points as there are blessings that allow you to save some skill points. One thing you definitely want is Psyche Limbs. This will increase QQ's damage tenfold, giving you a max of 80 crit damage at 2 stacks and then 90 crit damage when enhanced. And how you'll get the shield is from the Resonance interplay, nullifies all enemy damage and gains a shield 60% of your max HP. This path can really do it all. Some pros you're going to find in this team is insane AoE damage on par with some of the highest damage ceiling in the game. QQ having synergy with the propagation path. You're also getting some of the strongest single target. That is surprising for an erudition character, having sometimes more damage than their quantum counterpart. There's also decent survivability. When timed right, you can't get one shot by the big hit, and you also get a very nice shield. This also allows you to have 2 buffers slash debuffers, and the primary choices are going to be Silverwolf or Bronya, but I also can see characters like Pela being good here or Tingyun, and since you're getting that shield, an abundance character is recommended. Luocha is going to be the primary pick, but both Natasha and Bailu could work. If you are using Natasha, I will say you're going to have to be more attentive as you will have to watch your skill point utilization, as well as holding your ultimate to use in the right situations. Some cons are definitely QQ is going to feel a little bit worse without E6, as you aren't getting that additional skill back, and you're gonna have to worry even more about SP management, so not having E6 is going to be a hurdle that you're gonna have to get over. This is a team that will probably need the propagation path to really see that damage. I have seen some destruction path clears, but I gotta admit they're not as good, but they are usable. You'll just have a hard time with SP management, and it's gonna make your teams even more strict. All in all though, this is definitely one of my favorite teams to see right now, and a very surprising one at that. Like, who knew a character that was at the bottom of everyone's tier list now becoming a meta-defining character? Onto a number 2 spot, we have the Abundance Blade. Right now, Blade is pretty crazy. Even without wind weakness onto the enemy, just the sheer amount of damage output that Blade can deal is more than enough to beat the Swarm. Blade is on top of the main teams used in Swarm, and for good reason. He's just got everything. Damage, you got it. AoE, you got it. Counterattacks, you got it. Survivability and tankiness. And with the use of the Abundance path, even E0 Blade Havers can put it on auto and beat the hardest difficulty. So again, talking about the Abundance path, there's a lot of self-cleanse, so you'll never take dot damage or be CC'd. You're also very, very tanky. I think Blade has 10k health. I don't even see my healers get even half as much as that. And not only is this one of the strongest, it is the easiest team to play, being more easier than the shield team showcased previously. How this team works is pretty much how you would normally play Blade. You'll play a more traditional hyper carry way of buffing the team, and since you aren't going to use any skill points, you're going to be able to get a ton of uptime on all of the buffs that you'll need. So the main team consists of Blade, Silverwolf, and Bronya alongside Luocha. This is a very common setup that you'll see, but I sometimes see Silverwolf swap for Pela, and I've also seen some Asta for the extra speed boots, and Tingyun is also a popular Halmrendi choice. One of the most important and prominent things in this team is dewdrops. These are what you're going to see in all of the Abundance blessings, and these are basically able to be charged up when you heal your teammates and then deal additional damage based on the charge value when you attack. And the blessings that you want specifically, Mortals of Buddha Field, which increases the charging efficiency for Dewdrop by 80%. 2 of the Abundance Gold blessings charge Dewdrops when you restore HP and the beginning of your turn. All of these are important as Dewdrops will be a heavy part in the Abundance playstyle. You're also going to want to go for some propagation path blessings, trying to get basic attack crit damage. Onto the pros, as we mentioned before, this team has crazy AoE damage and strong single target, pretty much invincibility as there is a lot of resistance to CCs, as you're not going to get hit with DOT damage as long as you've healed yourself. Abundance blessings also provide speed and defense buffs, as well as some damage reduction if you are full health. This allows you to not get one shot, and since Blade is a very strong DPS, this is a team that you don't have to swap DPSs. So if you just want a simple team to play, this is the team to go. There aren't really cons for this team, and that is why it's so high up on the list. I think all players that have Blade do have an easier time with the Swarm game mode, as Blade is seriously good right now. I think Blade is on the top of the tier list and is a great choice for the Swarm endgame mode. Last but certainly not least, we have IL Donghong propagation. We all saw this coming. They made a path specifically for IL Donghong for him to abuse it, and not to our surprise, he's been dominating speedruns and solo clears as well. This character as of now, I think is the best DPS, but how well does he perform in Swarm? The Swarm has imaginary weakness on them and requires strong AoE damage, perfect for someone like IL Donghong to deal with. He is incredibly good against the smaller enemies, utilizing spores to his advantage with massive crit damage buffs that the path provides to pretty much one-shot the smaller swarm as soon as they spawn. The team consists of a standard setup of IL Donghong, Bronya, Silverwolf, and Luocha, but a popular swap is Pela, but I will say it's almost a requirement to have Luocha to babysit IL Donghong. Even though in the propagation path they ease the amount of SP you consume, it won't be enough if you always need to heal by using your skill points when using a character like Natasha. Now, I'm not saying it can't be doable, you're just gonna have to pay even closer attention. If you don't have Luocha or Silverwolf, that is actually fine. There is another variation of the team that is more focused defensively. You can use Japard and Natasha, but just be aware that you will see less damage, but it's a nice trade-off of survivability. The main pros of this team is high damage output in all fields. Spores are very strong against the Swarm, and IL Donghong has terrific single target damage. Something that you might find is that he is limited to 3 targets, but the way Spores work and the propagation blessings, he will be able to hit those other targets. The propagation path again has SP regens, and as long as you don't spam IL Donghong's level 3 basic attack at the wrong time, you'll always be able to maintain your buffs from your Bronya and your debuffs from Silverwolf. Blessings are very easily obtainable. You don't have to switch DPSs, as Donghong is a great DPS all the way. Something to note is that if you don't have propagation, but you still want to use IL Donghong, the destruction path is going to be your best bet. Still being a very strong path, but you're gonna have to worry a bit more on SP management. Some cons, I will be honest, I do feel as though he is pretty reliant on specific characters. That's just how it is, and that is a problem with the character itself. IL Donghong doesn't really want too much speed, as he may come back in the action order too fast, which for a character like him, it won't benefit, as he is again locked by skill points. This is why Bronya is so strong, and he'll be able to come back in the action order once all of the buffs are present and not at RNG based times. All in all, he's the best character to use in the Swarm game mode, able to hit absurd numbers in every single rotation. If you guys want to see me complete Swarm Disaster 5 completely free to play and in multiple different ways, check me out on Twitch, where I will be streaming live. You can also ask any questions on Honkai or Genshin there, and I got you. I want to give a huge shout out to all the creators that were featured in this video. A lot of them created these teams from scratch. We're the first to make these teams come to my notice, so a really big applause to them. And also a big applause to you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys will destroy the Swarm Disaster after watching this video. And if you found me helpful, please leave a like down below. And if you like our top 10 series, give a subscribe and hit the bell notifications. I will see you guys in the next top 10 or top 5, whichever comes first. See you then, gamers.